morning to beginner intermediate Pilates. We're going to do a nice stabilizing workout today. And we're just going to release some tension. Just the guys that have joined us this morning, the ladies that have joined us this morning, we're feeling a little bit sticky kind of around the glutes and hamstrings and hips. So we're going to do some nice releasing of there. So we need a lacrosse ball or a medicine ball or a roller if that's your last resort, a tennis ball. And we're just going to start releasing into the glute area. So if you do have a medicine ball or a roller, then we're going to go here, okay, like Maggie was doing, but we're not going to use the little ball for that. So if you've got a medicine ball or roller, you're going to come into that cross-legged position. However, if you do have the lacrosse ball, I want you to use the lacrosse ball. Okay, so don't grab the medicine ball if you've got a lacrosse ball, okay? I'm just showing the option if you don't have it, okay? So those of you that don't have the lacrosse ball, you're going to go into this. Those of you that do have it, I want you to sit on the floor, kind of in a little kind of open sit position, and I just want you to start to dig that ball into, there we go, into the bum, okay? So the leg is slightly open. You could have kind of one leg here. Just play a little bit with getting that leg into the bum. We've also talked about coming down the front of the leg, so into kind of the groove between your thigh and your side leg, okay? So just have a little rummage around in sitting, and then we're gonna lie down and do it, okay? So just digging into that bum tissue. Don't go into the hamstring yet because we're going to show you on the chair how to do the hamstring. So I'm just kind of coming into there. You also, if you don't feel much sitting or you're uncomfortable in sitting, then you can come down and get the ball kind of under your bum. And again, have a little rummage around, back into the back of the pelvis. I did this before we started today, and I also did it in the last two lessons. Okay, so with my leg dropped out now to the side, I can then get the ball to dig a bit deeper into the tissue. Okay, so have a little go, whether you want to sit or lie down, just kind of find that bruisey spot. Okay, stay there a little bit longer, you lacrosse people. Those of you on the medicine ball or the roller, you're going to come down the side of the leg now, okay? This is the hard part, okay? So you can do that with the roller or the med ball. Those of you sitting or lying, just kind of move it around. Has everyone got a good spot? Give me a thumbs up. We got a spot, good. Maggie, you got that spot? Awesome, okay? And just breathing there, watching your shoulder if you are on the medicine ball. And if it subsides where you are, so if you suddenly now feel like there's not as much tension, I always say kind of find a 7 or 8 out of 10. So 10 being the uncomfortable spot, 10 being like excruciating, so we don't want to be there. So 7 or 8, and then you want it to subside to about maybe a 4. Okay, if you stayed there longer, it might go down to kind of 2 or 1. And once it's subsided, then move to a different spot. Okay, so we'll just do a few more minutes here. Not a few more minutes, a few more seconds. Okay, those of you on the med ball, just be careful with shoulders. That should feel quite nice on the side of the leg. So come down into the bum, on your back if you need to. Or if you're feeling enough here and sitting, then stay there. And let's do one more deep breath. And then change sides. Okay, so you can start sitting up first. See how it is. Some of you I can see stayed in the sitting position. And if you find a spot either kind of right by the bum, or I've just come down kind of this kind of side back of my leg, kind of in between the front part of my thigh and the side of the leg, and I've got a nice ouchy spot there. But I know my bum on this side is much more tender, so I'm going to spend my time in my butt tissue on this left side. So sitting up, lying down. So those of you on the med ball, make sure you've changed side. You're on the glutes first with the legs crossed. Go around, make sure you've got a spot there. If you don't have a spot, go down the side of the leg. if it's different on one side to the other, okay? My right side glute actually didn't really feel that much, but I can feel about 5 tender areas on this left side that need my attention. So notice that for yourself if you're finding that one side is quite a lot different than the other, and make sure you spend more time there, okay? So if you allocate kind of 5 minutes of time to these releases, then maybe do 3 minutes on the more sensitive side and 2 minutes, or you might not even need anything at all. You might just need to go to the one side. Okay, nice deep breaths in. Everyone feel a difference in sides? Put your hand up. Yeah. So we've got a lot of imbalance, right? Just remember how that's going to affect our pelvis. Okay. So if you feel like it's not subsiding to that kind of 3-4 area, then I want you to take more time after this class and do some more in that area, okay? Because it might just need a little bit more of your attention. Okay. Release off of there. So those of you with the lacrosse ball, I want you to get a hard surface, ideally a chair that you can sit on that's hard. Someone made a really good suggestion that they didn't have a hard chair, so they put their cutting board, like a hard wooden board, on their chair and then use that. So that was quite a good idea. But ideally we want to sit up. I'm going to show you guys that have the med ball, because you kind of could do hamstrings with the med ball, but it's not going to work as well. So I'm going to show you what to do for that. Okay? So we're going to sit up really tall and use the chair. Notice how I'm angling forward, and I've got the ball just underneath my sit bones. If you really can't find anything to sit on, then sit on the floor, but you'll have to sit up really, really tall, ideally against a wall if you can. Okay, so if you really can't find something to sit on, okay, once I get into that position, I'm going to slowly kick the leg out. So I've got my ball underneath the left leg, and I'm going to slowly kick the leg out without losing that little neutral position. So I don't want to go into that position as I go, okay? So you're going to do kind of a few kicks in that zone, and then you're going to move the ball down your leg a little bit. Find where it feels ouchy, sit up nice and tall, kick. Okay, so those of you with the roller or the medicine ball, I want you to come into the inner thigh. Okay, so this is a underappreciated little area. So I'm going to start near the groin with my leg bent, and then I'm going to move it across to the inner knee. Okay, same thing with the roller. I can go into that groin area. Oh! Which feels really tight, and then just slowly moving it across. Okay? So move that ball down your hamstring if you're on that chair exercise, because the hamstrings go all the way down to the knee. I can't see Sue anymore, but hopefully Sue feels that. She's got a black screen now. Okay, so there she is. So slowly out. Oh, and that feels really, really, really tender for me. Of course, if you don't feel these exercises, you're not feeling that 7 or 8 out of 10, go to something else. Go to the front of your thigh, go to the front of your hip, go back to the bum, but never linger in somewhere that you don't really feel, okay? Because it's pointless. So, right by the top of the other side, change sides with the adductors, those of you that are on the med ball. Okay, so we start to kick out. Now this side doesn't feel as bad. Again, the same as my bum. My right side isn't as aggro. And so I just do a few little kicks, see if I can let my tissue go into the ball when the foot comes back down. And if it feels tender at that spot, make sure you're lifting nice and tall. And if you're against a wall, you're sitting, I think all of you are on a chair, but if you had to go into this position, then you've really got to sit up tall. Sorry, I had that on the wrong side. I just don't feel that as much. I feel it much more when I'm sitting and my leg can be dangled down. Okay, so move the ball down, inner thigh, people slowly moving it down towards your knee. And breathing, of course. Okay, and using that back of the chair, the side of the chair to sit you up nice and tall. And this will help us if we've got a lot of tightness in our hamstrings, then usually that blocks the bum from working, okay? So we start kind of using the hamstrings way too much instead of our glutes. Awesome. Okay. And then just release. Okay, so let's come down onto our back with our head blocks. And we're just going to kind of go into some classic stability stuff. So just you and the mat. So lie yourself down on your backs, get yourself comfy, knees bent, feet flat. And I just want you to place your hands at your belly as you lie down. And just take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through your mouth. So make sure your head is supported, it's not falling back in space. So you might have a little rolled up towel behind your head. Just make sure the pillow isn't too high, nor is your head falling backwards, okay? And some of you mentioned that you don't really have the right pillow to be able to do this, so just let me know and we can lend out our little head blocks. Okay, so inhale. Feel the rise of your belly into your hands. And exhale, feel the deflation of your belly. And that might be opposite to what you do, okay, but that is wrong. If you are inhaling and pulling your belly in, that is the wrong core activation, okay? So what we need to do is to be able to breathe into the hands, really wide ribs, fill the belly, and then exhale, deflate the belly as you breathe out. Breathe in, visualizing the lungs getting bigger, wider, open, and exhale, let the lungs feel narrow and smaller. And the same with your trunk. You're breathing down into your trunk, filling your torso with air, filling that diaphragm so it moves down, and then exhale, the belly deflates and the air pushes back up. So really visualize that air going into your lungs and down your torso, filling you, widening you, and then it's almost like a balloon deflating to let all that air out. Let that start to move your pelvis. So as you breathe in, feel as the breath goes down, it moves the pelvis down. So rolling into your 6 o'clock position, and exhale, rolling back up. So the wave of your breath, the belly inflating, helps to guide the tail down and the front of you to lengthen. And then exhale, I like to hollow the belly first and then gently roll the pelvis to the mat. And it's very soft. Take your hands to the side of your hips and roll and feel the motion of your pelvic halves. Okay, so it's like the pelvis is a big bowl rolling. So you're kind of rolling on the back surface of the bowl, and you're kind of manipulating the edges of the bowl. So imagine you were holding to the 2 sides of your bowl and just spilling the liquid in that bowl down to your feet and spilling the liquid back up towards your ribs. Okay, so it's a really gentle rocking, and you should feel the head respond. Okay, so as the pelvis rolls down, there should be some movement in your head. And maybe you feel some movement in your heels. Okay, so there's a little bit of a push and a pull, very subtle. If we feel the pull of the heels to the bum, the pelvis goes down. If we feel a little push through the heels, kind of forward, then the pelvis rolls up. So just feel those 3 kind of bowl shapes. The pelvis, the head, the heels. One more time. Inhale down and exhale up. Good, and then come to that nice middle point. And now feel the edges of the bowl. You're tipping side to side. So it's like I'm lifting the one bottom edge of the bowl up and spilling the water over, the liquid, whatever's in your bowl, over to the other side. Feel that nice gliding of the legs. So one leg glides up, one leg glides down into the hip. Okay, so as the pelvis is moving like that bowl, okay, side to side, the legs are doing a nice little piston action. One leg kind of going down into the hip, the other leg going kind of up towards the sky. And if you kind of see my arm movement here, okay, that's kind of what the legs are doing. It's like one ball of the leg is going down, the other ball of the leg is coming up. It's not massively big, okay, it's quite a subtle activation. And again, you might feel the feet a little bit. One foot going a little bit more into the floor. Yeah, it's not that they lift up the other side, but you just feel a little bit more pressure into the one leg. Nice. So roll your pelvic bowl around now into your little pelvic clocks. So really feel the back of your pelvis around the mat. It's like you're trying to make a little imprint into your mat and feeling the textures as you go around. Just really feel the shape of yourself, okay? Where it feels kind of more bony, hard, where it feels fleshy, maybe a little bit flatter, where it feels curved as you're going around. And is it smooth? Does it judder? Does it skip? Are you working a bit too hard? Okay, can you soften and make it really fluid as it rolls around? And then go the other way, really soft and liquidy. Just feeling that liquid inside your bowl, rolling around the edges. So imagine it doesn't even touch the center. You're trying to swirl around the edges of the bowl. And then find that nice middle. Okay, center yourself, maybe lengthen yourself out, arms by your side. Let's arc the right leg. Now we've done this before last week where we were feeling the ball in the socket. So I want you to lighten the muscle activation and just really feel the shapes. Okay, the ball in the socket, the cylinder of your leg, and just try and soften the work. See if it starts to get a little bit easier as you go. You let go of those muscles trying to lift the leg and just start to feel that rhythm of your leg and your pelvis. Good. Hold on to the leg gently and just give it a little rotation inward and outward. So I'm turning my thigh so that the foot angles in and then the foot angles out. Nothing too strenuous. I'm again trying not to grip into the front of the hip, so I'm just giving it a little bit of a rotation. Turn it outwards, so it's in that lateral rotation. Okay, so my thigh bone is turned out, drop it down and up. Okay, so feel how that movement is in your hip versus when it was parallel. Notice how the pelvis wants to tip over, don't let it do that. Now turn it in, that's going to feel weird. So the foot is now more angled outwards and the thigh bone is turned in, and see how that feels. Ugh, it feels very sticky. And then go back to the middle. Now that's nice and free, hopefully. Okay, and then feel as your leg comes down, feel that right side, or whichever leg you've been working, feel that side of the pelvis. Put your hands up if it feels different than the other side. one of you. Okay, so it should feel that it's kind of softer on the mat. It should feel like you feel less of your pelvis on the mat, okay, than the other side. I almost feel like I'm floating on my right side and I can feel hard on my left. So let's do the other side, just starting to arc. If there's crunching and clicking, your leg is not sitting in your hip, or you're working too hard through your muscles. Now this one immediately is much stickier than my right. Okay, so you're just gonna say soften, ball and socket, whatever gonna help your leg kind of root itself gently into your hip and to build some fluidity in that movement. Okay, you might feel your other leg a little bit more on the floor. Okay, come up, do that little bit of stirring in and out. And notice how much movement you have. I'll just turn this way. Notice how much movement you have this way versus that way. You can see with me, I can rotate my leg quite a lot externally, but I can't really rotate my leg as much this way. So just kind of see for yourself how proportioned you are. Okay, keep the leg outwardly, drop it down. Okay, now that's like immediately gripping into my groin. Really doesn't like that at all, so I'm not going to do many of those. Turn in, and that almost feels like a stretch for me, but it still doesn't feel that good. Ugh. And then go back to the middle. That's it, so it should be nice and free. And then come down and feel the pelvis on the mat. Hopefully that feels a little bit softer now. Now, place your hands just gently underneath the back of your pelvis, so fingertips underneath. So I can feel on my fingertips the little bony parts of my pelvis that kind of stick out a little bit. Okay, now I want you to do a little leg fall out, so a little turn. It's not a knee opening, okay? I'm rotating the leg in my hip, and I want to keep the left hand, so my right leg is rotating. I want to keep the left hand, the pelvis pressure on there. And I'm just slowly rotating my leg outwardly without changing the pressure on my left side. So it doesn't feel like I'm doing a whole lot of movement, but I'm working a lot on my pelvis. And then come back up. Take a breath in. Start to rotate gently your left leg, and notice when that right pelvis wants to come off your hand. So it might be really soon. And then I'm going to give more weight to my pelvic half and see if my leg can unwind a little bit more. Okay, keep more weight on that opposite side. The more the leg goes rotating outwards. Watch the tension in the head, neck, shoulders, and then come back up. Okay? So we're rotating the leg outwards in the hip. We're keeping the opposite side of the pelvis stable. So as that leg turns out, the pelvis is going to want to go with it, but we're going to keep the pressure not hard, not with muscle pressing, but with the weight of your pelvis. And just see how far that leg can go before you really can't stabilize anymore. And then come back up. So you're going to find a little tipping point where the leg can go quite easily. And then you have to work on the stability to let the leg go a little bit further. Make sure your other leg stays vertical, so it's not opening out to the side to counterbalance. Okay, because I can see some of you doing that. And put up your hand if you feel one side is different than the other. Yeah. So a lot of the time we'll either feel some restriction in one side, or there's a lack of stability. Okay, so the pelvis isn't able to stabilize itself as much as you can. Don't let the leg go farther than your stability. Okay, so if your leg is going out and your pelvis is off, you need to rein back in your leg. So just do one more on each side, balancing yourself out. So feeling that nice rotation of the ball in the socket. Nice. And then come back to center. Lovely. Now bring your feet a little bit closer to your bottom and take your head blocks away if you have them. We're just going to go slowly into a bridge. A bridge is a very good stabilizing exercise, but it's one that we don't necessarily do very well. Okay, so I want to make sure that we're getting the right connection here. So the feet are pressing down into the floor. And I want you to press into the feet just to let your pelvis hover a little bit off the mat. Just a little bit. Okay? Nothing big. And I want to just make sure I've let go of my hamstrings. There's no real tuck in my pelvis. I haven't done anything other than pressing into the feet. Now, as I press more into the feet, I'm going to slightly tilt the pelvis, send the thighs forward, melt into the feet more. Tilt the pelvis 12, send the thighs forward, melt into the feet more. Now I start feeling my bum, but I don't want one doing more than the other. So I don't want too much tilt, I don't want too much press, and I don't want too much feet. I need to do them equally so that I get up into this nice long line. So with your arms by your side, you should have deep belly, open hips, glutes, and hamstrings. So not just hamstrings. If I go up too high, then I'm going to just have hamstrings. Okay, now on the way down, let go of the back of the legs and melt yourself along the mat. Back of the neck long. You might even want your arms up in the air. And release that pelvis all the way down. And almost let your tail go down a little bit. Okay, so weight through the feet. Play with arms up, arms down. Can I suspend into the feet there without anything switching on? Quite hard. Those of you that are naturally tense, you almost need to let go of that. Now press through the feet. Tilt the pelvis. Send the legs forward. Feet, pelvis, legs. Now I feel my glute. One is going more than the other, so I have to pay attention to that. Making sure I'm evenly pressing through both legs, evenly tilting, evenly sending my legs out. Connect the inner thighs, check your alignment. Do you feel glutes? Do you feel your spine could lengthen out more? Could your low back lengthen out? Oh, now I really feel glutes. And then softly letting go as you roll back down. So I'm not trying to press vertebrae by vertebrae down. I'm almost trying to spread out and feel the flesh of my body coming down. Okay, let's do that one more time and then we're going to add on. So press into the foot. Yeah, suspend. Just let go. Let go of those hammies. Let go of the glutes. Let go even of your tummy if it's going, ugh. Okay, now I'm working the bones. Press the feet. Tilt the pelvic halves. Send the legs forward. Feet, feel the heel balls. Feel your bowl rolling a little bit towards your ribs. Thighs, feel that space there. Feel space in your low back. So I'm constantly going tilt, legs, feet. Equal distribution through your spine. Nothing feels too much. Check your arms here. Lift your arms up. Take the pelvis very gently side to side, keeping the feet pressed, keeping the thighs out, keeping your inner thighs, so it's a very small little side glide. The hips are level, so they don't move. It's quite hard, so take your time. Okay, the easier way is to do this and to tilt. So just do one more on each side. Woo! And my glutes are working nicely there. All the way down. Huh! Now, we're going to separate the feet a little bit wider here. Okay? So we're going to go into a little bit of an external rotation. So the leg bones are turning outwardly as I come up. Okay? My feet are still flat, but my leg bones are now rotating and my cheeks are coming kind of more into each other. It's not a squeeze, so watch you're not clenching your bum, but my cheeks are kind of wrapping in. And I'm going into this long bridge. So now you should feel kind of a slightly different feeling. I want you to lift one heel up and then back down. Lift the other heel up. Make sure your feet aren't too turned out and down. Lift both heels up and down. And then again, one heel and down. Other heel, down, both heels and down. Now lower your bum halfway. Press into the feet, come back up. Remember that little tilt of the pelvis. Lower halfway. My bum is really working now. Hopefully yours is too. I'm not lifting from my back. I'm making sure that when I go up and down, it is my feet that press and my hips that go out. It is not my low back going down and up. Okay, so if you're feeling some bending in your low back, you need to go to your hips. Just two more. My butt is on fire. One more. And up. And then release all the way down. And hug. Woo! Hug those knees in. And take your head block back behind your head for here. Just rocking. Just take one leg down, but try not to let it arch your back, okay? So try and have this leg down where your pelvis is still on the mat, and that's actually going to give you a little bit of a hip stretch. If you press through your heel and not let yourself go down to your tail, so you might have to pull this leg in a little bit. So sacrum on the mat, heel pressing down, that opens up my hip. Now I'm going to hold onto the back of this leg and just very gently send my heel away from my bottom, okay? I don't want to change my pelvis. And about there, I can feel the elasticity. I don't want to push through and go, and really overly stretch, but I just want to meet that elastic and then come back down. So feel like there's a band between your bum and your heel. Okay, so I'm just slowly, so if I imagine that band there, I'm slowly opening up that tension just before it feels like a stretch. Okay, so I'm just now feeling that little pull, but if I go too much, then it feels like a yucky stretch. For me, I know that yucky stretch feeling. For you guys, you might not. You might think that that's the good stretch. Okay, it's not. We don't actually want to feel a pull. I just want to feel the edge of my elasticity. Yeah, so there I can feel now I'm having to really work to get it the extra way, and I don't want that. Okay, make sure you're still pressing through this leg. You're still in neutral. Let's do one more time. So I've got my leg quite close to me so I can hold on to it. Yeah, and don't worry, it's not going to go straight unless you're super uber flexible. And in that case, we don't actually want the hamstrings to be super flexible because they're a power, fight, and flight muscle. Okay, so we want them to be elastic, we want them to be long, but we want them to be able to connect back. Okay, so take the other leg down, press into the heel, and then keeping the sacrum on the mat, slowly open the heel away from the bum. And you might find that in the hip is being challenged. Okay, so try and make sure you soften that front of the hip. I'm not squashing my leg, I'm keeping space, I'm trying to keep the ball down into the socket. So if anything, I'm pulling my femur down into my hip a little bit. Okay, this one feels very different. The elastic doesn't feel it goes as much. Okay, keep pressing that heel down on the bottom leg, keeping the sacrum on the mat. Ooh, one more. And up. Lengthening back of the leg. Ooh. Okay, come into tabletop. Just do a few little stirs of the legs in the hips. Okay, notice the angle of my legs in tabletop. It's not here where my back starts to arch. It's here where the legs can drop into the hips. Close the legs together, reach the arms forward here, so they're almost just by my knees. Interlace the hands. Now you're going to rotate your pelvis over, counter-rotate with your arms and your head. Don't let your elbows bend. Okay, so I'm not going super far. Inhale, come back to center, across that pelvis, and then over the other way, arms reaching. Okay, so you should feel your obliques as you do this. So keep the arms nice and straight and keep the legs together. I'm rolling across the pelvis, letting my head and my arms counter-rotate. Inhale, come back. If it feels too much for your hips, take it on the floor. Again, I'm not going to go super far. I can go like this if I'm kind of passive, but I don't want to be passive. I want to be reaching those arms out, feeling the connection through my middle. So just do one more time to each side. Deep belly on. And over. Nice one. Let's come onto our side. Let's come off of our backs for a second. Ooh, we've been on our backs a long time. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we're going to do a little side kick. So what I'd like you to do is to get comfy with your upper half. Okay, I like this version with my arms straight down and a little pillow, a little towel between. You could do that version. Okay. Now what we're going to do is you're going to start in a straight line with your hand on the floor, and then you're going to bring your feet forward a little bit so your hips are flexed. Okay? So if you're kind of in the middle of your mat, your feet are going to go onto the floor in front of your mat. Okay? So they're quite forward. So then I'm going to press. Now, my foot on the bottom isn't dropped. It's not passive. I'm kind of pressing into my baby toes to lift my heel, and I'm going to press into the bottom leg and into my hand, lengthen my trunk to lift that top leg up. I'm going to try not to tense the front of my leg, which is really hard. Okay? So I almost feel like there's a little air pump between my inner thighs to float the leg up. Again, think of the bone movement. Okay? So what's happening in my hip? Right? The ball in the socket, and I'm abducting that leg. Okay? And down. So I'm pressing into the bottom leg. My heel is slightly lifted. Now, inhale that leg forward. Feel that elastic we felt in the hamstrings. Exhale. Now, I want you to tilt to 12 a little bit. Reach your arm forward. Okay, and the leg is going to go behind so I can feel my bum. Hand to the floor, feel the elastic through your back of the leg. As the leg goes back, 12. So tilt the pelvis as you reach your arm forward. Okay, and that counterbalances the leg. Don't go into your low back. Pick up the pace. Inhale, kick. Exhale, reach. Inhale. Hopefully we have enough room in our lounges here. Press deep belly. Press deep belly. One more and stay. Drop the leg down. Bend the other knee. So I'm just letting it hang here. And for some of you, that might give you a little stretch down the hip. Try not to overly lift your ribs, just let them settle. Okay, now I'm going to press into the bottom leg, float the top leg up. Really think ball in the socket, ladies and gents, if you're watching. So I'm stirring that leg in my hip, very small circles. Okay, nothing crazy. I want to try not to overdo my muscles around my leg. I want to really feel deep in the hip. By the groin, I'm circling. Then the other direction. 8, 7, 6. Keep deep belly on, okay, so that the pelvis isn't moving. Woo! And your glute meads should be working quite a lot. And then release it back down. So around here is where you should feel it, okay? Other side. So if you felt it a lot in your IT band, kind of the side of your leg, you're either tensing too much, you're tensing the leg, or you need to work on that IT band before you do these kind of exercises. Okay, so our legs are straight. I'm dorsiflexing the feet so I have a little bit more anchor. And then I'm going to move my legs in front. I'm going to hit my water bottle, I think. Okay, so the pelvis is still neutral. I want to make sure the sacrum isn't tucked under. Okay, now you press into your bottom leg, lift your toe. Oh, this one feels very different. Okay, so my heel is lifted a little bit on my bottom leg, so it's not dropped onto the floor. Okay, so this leg for me wants to tense. So I'm just going to invite that little pocket of space. I'm opening up the inner groin, and I'm going to remind myself I don't need to tense up, hopefully. Okay, feel the hand on the floor. We go forward, feel that elastic through the hamstring. Arm reaches forward as the leg goes back. You can point the foot if you like. Hand on the floor, going forward, feel the elastic. Little bit of 12, so pubic bone to navel. So that stops the low back from doing it. Let's pick up the pace. Inhale forward, exhale back. Inhale forward, elastic through the back of the leg. Feel the hip. Watch those ribs. Don't start pushing forward. You have to work your belly. And working that bottom leg, it's not dead. It's pushing into the floor. One more. And reach. And then bend the bottom knee and drop that leg down for a second. So just drop it on the mat. Feel how that kind of, it's quite nice even just to hang out here. If you're very tight, I can feel that kind of right down the front of my hip and into the outer leg. You might even feel a difference in sides. Okay, so let's try and do our little circles. So press into the bottom leg, let this top leg float. Okay, now again, I already felt that this leg wanted to be tense. I'm making sure my leg is in my hip as I start to circle. So if you overstretch the leg, then that's not good either. Okay, so I don't want to overstretch it. That's much better now. Oh, it's getting fatigued almost right away. Okay, little circles in the groin. So my ball of my leg is in my groin. Reverse for 8, 7, 6. Oh my gosh, so much different. 5, 4. I can barely do those last 3, 2, 1. Oh. And then give that a nice little slap. Awesome. Okay, let's come onto our front. We're going to do a little bit of stability here for the pelvis, and then we're going to start to come up into our little swan preps, maybe do a little bit of a dart. Okay, so if you're very, very tight in your low back, so when you lie down, you have a very big curve, your tail is kind of up, and you really can't get your pelvis to come into neutral, then I suggest you roll up a little towel underneath your hip bones. Okay, but hopefully you guys have been doing your releasing in your hips and your front of the thighs, so we're in a better state here. Okay, so hands underneath the forehead. I'm going to come up because I can't speak when I'm on the floor and you guys can look. So what I want you to do just very gently is to tilt your pelvis gently to 12. Okay? Now, what a lot of us do without really knowing it is we do 12 by squeezing our butt cheeks. Okay, so I don't want you to do that. I want you to send your sacrum down towards your feet and maybe think of the front of the hips very gently coming to the ribs. It's a very subtle movement, but what you want to feel is that your pubic bone kind of settles into the mat. Now, if the front of the hips are quite tight, walk the legs a little bit more down the mat and then see if you have a little bit more freedom to do that little 12. Okay, so once you've got that little position where the pubic bone is more on the mat, the sacrum is more long, and you're not clenching your bum to do it, your deep belly should be having to work to keep you stable. Okay, so then what you're going to do, I'm going to come in here, is keep that as you brush down one leg and bend the knee without disrupting the pelvis, and then lower back down. Okay, so you're keeping the 12, keeping the pubic bone on the mat, brush down the other leg, and fold around the knee without disrupting the pelvis. So it's a little one-leg kick. Okay, now what tends to happen is when we go to bend the leg, the tail pops up. Okay, and the pubic bone comes away from the mat. So I want to breathe out down that front of the leg, around the knee, and keeping that neutral. Okay, so then again, I'm working my hamstring. So if you just do this, you do not have the pelvis in neutral. Okay, you can see my pelvis is wibbly wobbly. So I want to have that pubic bone not pressed and clenched, but wrapped into the mat. So just do a few alternating there. Little bend and stretch. It's like I'm doing an active quad stretch. Soften the foot. Okay. Now, this is going to be harder. Try and get both legs to bend without your tail coming up and your belly letting go. Okay, so I'm really keeping that little bit of 12, that deep belly on as my legs go together. That's quite hard, okay? Think if your front of the thighs are really tight, this is going to be hard. So I'm going from kind of my rib cage down through my hips, down the thighs. Don't be tense with your knees or this won't work. And then slowly bending both. Woo, that's quite hard on my hamstrings. I know it doesn't look like much, but if you do it right, it'll feel like a big stability exercise. Okay, now take the legs a little bit wider, turn them out a little bit, okay? So the thighs are slightly rotated outwards, okay? I'm still trying to make sure my pubic bone is still on the floor. Okay, now bend the legs, and when the legs now come up, the heels should be able to meet each other. Okay, so my legs are turned outwards. If you can spiral them a bit more without disrupting the pubic bone. Okay, now all I want you to do is gently press the heels together. Really gently, and then let the heels let go, so you might feel your bum let go. Okay? Then get that pubic bone on the ground, because it might have lifted up. Wrap the heels into each other, so we do a little heel press. It's like a little froggy press. And release. So you should feel not a clenching of your bum, that's your hamstrings. It should feel like your butt cheeks kind of wrap around and get a little bit more plump as the heels come together. If I squeeze too much and it's too strong, then it'll be hamstring. So it's a very subtle little press. Good. Keep the low back long one more time. So I'm kind of feeling my sacrum going down towards my feet as I press. Good. And then release. Take your legs nice and long back again. Get that pubic bone there. Now we're going to take our arms and just let them drop forward. Okay? Then I want you to retract your shoulder blades. Rotate your upper arm around. If they feel like they want to hover, fantastic. And lengthen your spine out as the shoulder blades come back. Maybe your arms go up, but your pubic bone stays on the ground. Your deep ribs stay on the ground. Your deep ribs connect. And then release back down. Okay? So what I'm doing with the shoulders is retracting the shoulder blades back, rolling the upper arm back, but without letting the ribs push down into the floor. So I'm connecting the belly and the ribs as the arms rotate and darting the spine long. And then return the arms back down. Good, so retract the shoulder blades, rotate the upper arm, because the lower arm will want to rotate, but I want the upper arm, that ball in the socket. Yeah? Don't overdo it where it feels strained. Some of you look like you're overdoing it. Let the head come up and lengthen as your arms come up. Yeah, so the back of the neck lengthens so that you really feel that upper back. Now be careful. We'll do it one more time. I don't want you to drop your shoulder blades down your back. I want you to feel the rolling of your upper arm, but they stay quite high on your back. Yeah, shoulder blades come together. Good. And inner thighs reach out as your spine goes forward. So it's that lovely dart. Lovely. Back of the neck long as your head comes up. Good. And then just release and shell stretch back. That's quite hard. Okay, I just wanted to try and fit one more thing in for our butts. If you have a big stability ball, grab that. If you don't, we're going to try this on your couch, okay? So this will be our finale. So grab a stability ball, big ball if you have it. If not, put your feet up on a couch, okay? Or a softy chair. Okay, has anyone got, if they don't have a couch, they've got a chair or something they can put their feet on? Awesome. You guys will have to tell me how the couch feels. Okay, so we're going to go into that froggy position that we did on our backs. So we're going to start with the legs parallel on your apparatus. Okay, so knees bent. And then I'm going to rotate the legs outward. Now be careful, because some of you that are flexible, I don't want this like open, dropped, floppy position. Okay? I want you to turn out your legs so that they're still deep in your hips and kind of the heels slightly pressing together. Okay? My toes are not dropped onto the ball. Okay? So this is a little bit more challenging with the stability ball, but we'll see how we go with the couch. Okay, hopefully it's not too mushy of a couch. So I'm going to press down into the ball or the couch, keeping that little spiral. See if you can come up into your bridge. Woo! Lengthen out. Sending the thighs out, sending the low back out, and then release back down straight. So you don't need to do an articulation, okay? So I'm not dropping, because if I drop, I'm going to be in my groin, and I don't want to be in my groin, okay? So I just have that little spiral. I'm pressing down. That's really key, that you press down into your surface to get the hips to come up. Lengthening out the low back. If that's too much for you, you're not quite ready for that, just go back to doing your bridge on the floor with that slight turnout. Then drop the hips back down. Good. How are we doing? Thumbs up, thumbs down? So hard, yes? Okay, come up again. Pressing in that slight turnout. Let's see that 2 more times if we can. That's it, you're not done yet. Okay, don't over tuck the pelvis. I see some of you tucking the pelvis a little bit too much. Don't tuck the pelvis. Press into your ball or your couch and just go straight out and up. Yeah, you don't need a lot of tuck. You need that wrap of the hips. Yeah, and then come back down and hug your knees in. Okay, if that felt like something that was a good little strengthening for you, then try and challenge yourself with that. But we built that up a lot to get those rotators kind of working, to get our bum released. Lovely. So just do a little rock and then just slowly come up to either sitting or kneeling or standing. Let's actually stand to finish. So just getting into your standing posture for a moment. Just letting your weight, let your legs recover, potentially from that. Okay, so as I go back with my weight more towards the heels, I suddenly feel the fascia, the connective tissue in the front and the back of the legs. It's like my bones are encased in the front and the back and the side and the outside. If I let my weight go too far forward, it's like I'm hanging just in this tissue and in my low back tissue. But if I come back, I can find this lovely space where almost my bones are suspended in the tissue around them. And I want you to feel the same with your spine. Can you encase the spine between the front and the back of you? So we're not kind of here hanging in the front and we're not in the back, so we're somewhere in the middle. And feel the rib cage kind of widen and broaden as you feel the belly retract. It's like the collarbones are kind of sitting in the tissue at the front and the back. Yeah, it's like all the bones of the shoulders are in between all that tissue. And feel even how your head is balanced on your spine. Is it beautifully and delicately balanced where you don't feel tension? Or is there some tension anywhere? Feel space. Feel lifted. Feel the pockets of your knees feel spacious. So we're not locking behind the knees. Again, we feel front and back of the legs. And just feel that sensation and how hard that would be to stay there, like some of you said, kind of standing in your queue, and we suddenly come kind of into these slumped positions. This is a working exercise just to be in that standing posture. Weight back in the heels, softer knees, tissue at the front and the back of the legs, deep belly on, wide ribs, floating head. Breathe there. Good, and then just let it all go. Thank you very much.